I just
May I ask you to pull the box for me, please, Ganesh? See to do it. Thank you. All right, where are we in the text?
verse 60, page 122. Shochaniya yadi snehat mata pitra sudha yadah tarhyatita na socyante kathamete sahasrashah. If the mother, father, son, and others are lamentable or fit to be mourned out of affection, then how is it that these relatives who have passed by in thousands are not mourned for?
So remember the story, the context. There's these two brothers and their parents die. One brother is rooted in knowledge and he does not grieve. Remember what Gita says in the second chapter in the 11th verse. Krishna says to Arjuna, you grieve for whom you should not grieve. Though you speak words of wisdom, the wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. And Arjuna goes, yeah, but they were new. So here the second brother is upset. One brother is trying to say, logically, why are you grieving for them? So putting it in modern terms, I know some of us have lost dear friends and relatives of COVID, maybe parents. Are your grandparents dead? Do you mourn them? Maybe. Are your great-grandparents dead? Yes. Do you mourn them? No. So it's not the relatedness. What's the factor? Why do we grieve? Going on.
Singha vanara matanga khara kakadiyo nishu pavanatvam hi jatosi purashata sahasrashah. Pavana, surely you have been born formerly in the wombs of the lion, the monkey, the elephant, the ass, the crow, and the like by hundred thousands.
So he says, not only do you have these human relatives, but we've been through hundreds, maybe millions of human lives, and then lives in animals. In every single one, we had a mother, but we don't grieve their death. We've been the mothers. We've lost children. We don't grieve those. Going on.
Tatraya bandhavo yata tan katham nanushochasi. The kindred beings born there or in those in those incarnations have gone away. How is it that you do not grieve for them?
So, what is the difference? I had just as much a relationship with them. What is it about what's happening in the now that I grieve for this person or that person? Let's see if they flesh out the answer. Going on.
Bhava bhava vinirmuktam jaramarana varjitam samsmaratmanamavayagram matvam mudha matirбhava. Think calmly of the self which is liberated from existence and non-existence and is without old age and death. Do not be foolish.
Yes. So the truth is, If I am not the body, not the mind, not the prana, not the thoughts, I'm that Chidakasha, the term that we find in Yoga Vasishta, that space of pure awareness that's unborn and undying. So is the truth about these relatives. Nobody dies. Listen carefully. The scriptures say the self is the one entity. The self has bhava, sentient, life, being. The equipment is fundamentally inert. I enliven the equipment. I know the movement of the equipment. One thought can't see another thought. My nose doesn't know my toes. I know them both. Well, Jim, one finger can touch another. Well, I know one finger is touching another. They themselves are not conscious. I am consciousness. And all you have to do is look at a photo of yourself as a 9-year-old. And there wasn't one moment from then till now that you've ceased to be. Every one of those cells is gone. That body's dead. So if that's the truth about me, my own experience, it's also the truth about everybody else, whether they know it or not. They may be completely identified with the body. The vast majority of people are. But the self in them is still amritam, beyond death, immortal. Any thoughts on this? Frankly, I think in some ways grief is selfish. What I'm really, what?
I don't know.
Let me finish
I'm
my
gonna-
thought. You can
I'm
argue.
sorry.
Okay. We grieve for our own loss. I don't have the contact with that person in that form to hang out with, to pay, all attention to, all that kind of interaction. It's my stuff. But I think, oh, it's such a tragedy that so-and-so died. Well, actually, they're fine. I'm the one who's experienced the loss. Now, what were you going to say, Justin?
Well, I lit a candle for a parent who lost a child this morning at church, and kind of made me cry because I saw my mother lose my brother. And whenever I see a parent lose a kid, I don't know, I just feel their pain because I saw the little pain my mom went through. So it wasn't, I don't know, is that a bad thing to feel grief for someone else's loss? Or
Of course, you're empathetic.
Okay, I don't know. But it's
But
just
her
kind of
loss
weird.
is her own. The kid's just fine.
Yes, I understand that, but I just more feel the pain of the parent not being able to see a child again. That is but I don't know.
You've proven my point.
Yeah, you said neither the living nor the dead is what you said, and I heard that, but I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. It's just kind of hard for me not to feel the pain of a parent. I don't know. It's just weird, like when losing a kid. It just seems pretty severe for them. But I don't know.
Did you have a hamburger today, or did you have anything with meat in it today?
Probably. I don't recall completely. Yes, I did.
Have
Sorry,
you
I
had
had a
meal
light
with
seizure
meat?
earlier, so I'm a little
Have
fuzzy.
you had a meal with meat in it lately?
Yes, I have.
What did you have?
I had some chicken.
Some chicken.
Yeah.
Did you grieve the loss of the mother chicken for its child?
No, I guess I'm quite selfish in all kinds of ways. Not saying I'm not.
So why don't you grieve that? It's a mother losing its child.
Yes.
Think.
Yes, I understand. I just I argue that meat is part of the human diet, actually.
You're missing my point. We're talking about
Okay.
you changed the
I
subject.
understand. Well, I mean, all life creates life. All life
What's
consumes life, and all life
happening,
destroys life.
Justin,
Yeah.
is you have a situation from your own past.
Yeah.
Your mother with your sibling.
Yeah.
And you are projecting what's going on with another woman and her child, and you're feeling into it. At the human level, I think that's very noble.
Okay.
But from the standpoint of yoga,
Yeah.
it's a different way of seeing. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I understand.
All right, going on.
एवं प्रबोधित तेन तथा पुण्येन पावनः उभावपि ततो जातौ ज्ञानविज्ञानपारगौ एवमेव त्वया भाव्यं चिन्तारहितचेतसा. Thus Pavana was awakened or taught by that punya in that manner. Then both of them became profoundly learned in or persons who have gone to the end of spiritual knowledge and realization. Just so it ought to be conceived by you with a free mind from thought or anxiety.
Yes. So, again, what was the problem here? The one brother was caught up in I-ness and mine. Same problem Arjuna has in the Gita. I don't want to fight my cousins or do battle with my archery guru, my grandfather. I-ness and minus. Krishna says the only solution is to enlighten you. So the ultimate solution to the issue of loss, because that's what it's about. I grieve my own loss. Or, as Justin said, I empathize with someone else's loss. And that's rooted in the idea that a person is their body. If I'm identified with my body, I'm going to think they're their body. If I have those moments, perhaps, where I know I am not the body, when you realize the self in you, you realize the self in everybody. Going on.
इति श्री वशिष्ठ संग्रहे जनकोपाख्यानां नाम एकदाशः सर्गः. Thus ends the 11th chapter titled The Story of Janaka in the abridgment of Yoga Vasishta.
Okay. Next chapter.
Dvadashah Sargah, chapter 12. Balyupakhyanam, the story of Bali. Section 1. Bale Nirvedaha, the dejection of Bali. Vasishta Uvacha Chinta Naidhate Chinta Twindhaneneva Pavakaha Nashyan Ya Chintanenaiva Vine Dhanami Vanalaha. Anxiety grows by thinking just as fire grows by fuel. It perishes by the absence of thinking, just as fire without fuel.
So chinta or chintya, anxiety, worry. The more you focus on it, the bigger it gets. Remove the thinking and you remove the fuel. One of Tejamayananda's fondest sayings, do you know how to get rid of your worries? Quit worrying. There's a cause and effect relationship. The fool thinks the world of effects, meaning the jagat, the creation, causes my mind states. Yoga says it's the other way around. My mind states create my perception of the world. There's a cause and effect relationship. The worries that you do, the chintya, the sankalpa, whatever word you want to use, the thoughting, the dwelling on, makes it reified, concretized, manifested, whatever words you want to use. All that's effect. The thinking is the cause. Dry up the cause, and the effect disappears. I share with you the law of sankalpa. Any sankalpa consistently maintained that isn't contradicted or conflicted tends to grossify. So the opposite is any sankalpa that you quit maintaining consistently, the effect, the grossification, tends to disappear. It's that simple. So the yogi changes his view of the phenomenal world. He doesn't see the world as something solid and separate and causative. In spite of what the newspapers say, in spite of what you see on television, we're dealing with three questions in this text. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? We've done a lot of work in previous texts on who am I. I am that ground of being. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. What is this world? We have to reconcile two statements. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is unreal. And Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this world is Brahman. How do we join them together? The world is consciousness appearing as name and form. Metaphor that I've been using the past week or so. Consciousness is like an ocean. The names and forms are like ice. The ice is nothing but the ocean appearing as ice. Each particular iceberg or a little chip of ice is completely unique and different. And guess what happens to them all? They melt. But they don't go anywhere. They were nothing but the ocean appearing as the form of ice. That's all this world is. Third question, how has it come about? The Lord does not create the world the way a potter creates a pot. The potter is separate from the clay. The pot is separate from the potter. The Lord imagines this. This is the deep mystical meaning behind that whole story of Genesis, where God speaks creation into existence. It's a way of saying it's intended. Let there be light. And there was light. There's nothing opposed to it. Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. What is this world? Brahman. How does the world come about? Sankalpa. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Vinivarita sarvartha apahastita bandhavat naswadhyayat hrite kinchit abhyudharati sankatat. Nothing whatever saves one from difficulty except one's courage, the keeping away of all desires or objects, and the giving up of all relations.
So here, again, this is an abridgment. What do we need to do in order to be free? Intense, mature vairagya. And by giving up here, does it mean we need to run away from the world and live on top of a mountain? We have to give up our deeply rooted belief that the world of name and form has joy-giving or misery-producing qualities. This world is nothing but the self-knowing of Brahman. Let's see if I can give you a very subtle teaching here. Many times we've gone through the meditation. Who knows the self? What is the absolute knower? Self is self-evident. You don't see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself, yet you know you are. It's the self-knowing of consciousness. I know I am. Listen very carefully. That's the only thing that's ever going on. The cognition of the phenomena is the self-knowing of spirit. The self-knowing of consciousness. There's nothing else to know. God without form, knowing God with forms, no different than God's self-evidence, the Swayambhu. self-luminosity. I invite you to meditate. Nothing else going on. But to come to that vision, we have to have mature vairagya. Giving up my deeply rooted belief that I am the body, I'm a person, and the world out there separate from consciousness. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Vairagyena cha shastrena mahatvadigurainapi yatne napa dvidha tatham swayam eva unomita manaha. Let one raise his mind by himself alone, by effort, for the destruction of calamities, through passionlessness, study of scripture, and virtues like spiritual strength.
Vairagyena, by means of, instrumental case, vairagya. And then the study of scripture in an intelligent way. So we don't get caught up in rabbit holes and ancillary stuff. It can be of intellectual interest. And our own courage, our own purushartha, self-effort. And again, all this is due to God's grace, but we invoke God's grace. Any thoughts? Next one.
Purne manasi sampurna jagat sarvam sudhadravaihi upana dagadhapadasya nanu charmastritai tritaiva bhu. When the mind is fulfilled or contented, the whole world is filled with ambrosial fluids. To one whose feet are covered with shoes, the earth indeed is covered only by leather.
This is one of my favorite verses. So if you're content, if you've let go of the world, your mind easily comes home. And the whole world's filled with deliciousness and ambrosial fluid. And then for the person who's wearing shoes, the world is covered with leather. But you and I, we try to cover the world with leather when we could wear shoes. I want to fix this, I want to fix that, I want to fix this, I want to fix that. Go to the root of the problem. Next verse.
Vairagyat purnatam eti manonashavanashugam na tatha bhati purnendu na purna kshira sagaraha. Na Lakshmi Vadanam Kantam Spriha Heenam Yatha Manaha. The mind helplessly follows destruction, attains to fullness on account of passionlessness. The full moon does not shine in that manner. The milk ocean is not full to that extent, and the face of Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, is not so much pleasing as the mind without desire.
Yes. So in the language of metaphor and poetry, if I want the Cadillac, how am I going to feel when I get the Cadillac? Happy. I want a bigger house. How am I going to feel when I get a bigger house? Happy. I want to have sex with 72 virgins in heaven. How am I going to feel? Happy. Yoga says, why not get rid of the medium and go for the happiness? How do I get it? Freedom from craving. Freedom from sangraha, attachment, joined to grabbing is what it literally means. Wonderful word. Freedom from longings for them. Having santosha, contentment. One can acquire all the siddhis that one finds enumerated in the Kriya Yoga, the Raja Yoga traditions. Nothing wrong with that. It's just like going to the gym and building muscles. But it doesn't satisfy the human heart. There's only one siddhi that's worth acquiring. And that's peace of mind. One who has that, that's the pearl of great price. Any thoughts? Next one.
Athava balivat buddhai bhedena jnanamapyatam patale danavo raja viro chanasutay bali dashakotistu varshnanam daityarajyam chakarahi. Otherwise, like Bali, let knowledge be obtained through the disturbance of the intellect. In the netherworld, the demon king Bali, son of Virochana, indeed formed the kingdoms of the demons for 100 million years.
So we have various stories where we have various kings of the demon kings. So here, Bali, he goes to the netherworld and he is kind of like the Vladimir Putin. And he gathers all the demons together and organizes them. He's got his demon empire. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Ajasma mati bhukteshu trailokyo daravrittishu aruchim prapya bhogeshu chintyamasa chaikada. Having got aversion in enjoyments which were enjoyed in excess constantly and which were agreeably or highly thought of by the three worlds, once he reflected as follows.
So Bali is a great bhogi, an indulger in indulgences. That's what demons do. He just laps it all up. More money than anybody. Has armies he can command. All the women he could want. orders people to be killed, but still not satisfied. So this is how he reflects. Going on.
Kim va bhavati bhuktena kim namedam sukhavaham punara lingayate kanta punareva chu bhujyate punah punah idam kurvan prajnakasmat na lajjate kritaya pyanaya nityam kriyaya krita karyaya. What possibly happens by enjoyments? What is this that is called pleasant? Again and again, a woman is embraced and enjoyed. Doing this repeatedly, why is a wise man not ashamed of this action which is continually performed, though it has done its work? Note, this candid statement refers to the most powerful of human urges, completely enslaving even a wise person and making them oblivious of enduring values and the way to permanent happiness. In fact, libido has a twofold function, procreative and evolutionary. After carrying out the former function, coupled of course with the legitimate satisfaction of desires within the bounds of moral and spiritual law, it should be sublimated and harnessed for higher purposes.
Okay. That's the editor's morality. But what the scripture says is its purpose is baby making, yet we keep doing it because we enjoy it. And it's deeply rooted race survival. Here I mean the human race. It's deep, biological, and instinctual. Listen very carefully. The yoga scriptures invite us to practice brahmacharya. That's usually translated as celibacy. What it literally means is characharati, to roam around in Brahman. That is true brahmacharya. Celibacy, brahmacharya, is a gift. Just like if you continue to meditate, if you continue to practice discrimination, you may find your passions for the world's lessening. You might find your diet changing and becoming lighter. You may also find a redirection of your sexual energy. But out of some moral concept to try to practice celibacy, oftentimes will bend or pervert the human mind and make it unfit for practice. There's a Sufi teacher named Bennett, and he called ejaculation the little shit. It's just something bodies do. Now, if you choose to practice these kriyas, these yogic actions where you take that Kundalini energy and you redirect it, that's a very noble venture. And in no way downplaying that. But the note to me smacked a bit of moral judgment. We live in a different world, perhaps, than he. Anybody have thoughts on this? I'm going to tell you a true story. So it was very close to the end of Swamiji's life. I think it was actually the camp in 93. One of Swamiji's disciples, I won't mention his name, came. His wife had been one of Swamiji's earliest disciples. They had a child. They were both middle-aged. And this fellow said to Swamiji that his wife had decided to become a celibate and they hadn't had sex for a really long period. And Swamiji said, I did not know that. What she's doing is wrong. She has a duty to do. You meditate. My suggestion, love God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength. Your sex powers are God-given, not to be abused, but not to be trashed either. Sex is very powerful. That's enough on that. Going on.
Korthasya tadrisho yena punah karma na vidyate. What purpose or affair could there be by which there is no bondage of action again?
So, what happens here is that when we gain pleasure from some activity in the world, not just sex, it can be computer games, it can be chocolate, it can be the attention of other people, it can be feeling important. Always, the more you get, the more you want. And we're tyrannized by that addictive relationship, which compels us into the activity of wanting to repeat it. I love to quote Hamlet, where he says, we grunt and sweat under a weary life. It's the way so many people live. I want more stuff, so I gotta work really hard to get more stuff. Now I'm exhausted because I have to work so hard. Then I have to pay for the vacation so I can get away from the hard work. I have to work harder so I can make the money to pay for the vacation. Vicious, vicious circles. America, under the throes of it. It's the tyranny of the indulgent tendency of mind. Any thoughts on this? How should we look at our works? What would you use to say? Serve the society. Serve something greater than your own petty, stupid, evil means. Next verse.
Section 2. Pitra Upadeshaha. The instruction by the father. Asmritam yat pura prishto maya tato virochanah. Ah, that which my father Virochana was asked formerly has been remembered by me.
Going on.
Pita sakala dukkhanam sukhanam chapi sarvashah yatra sarve brahma shanta kosau simanta uchyatam. Father, tell me, what is that boundary line or the utmost limit of all pains and also pleasures on all sides, where all delusions or confusions are alleviated or extinguished.
So, first of all, what is the extreme extent of suffering? I want to stay away from that. And how do I get the unbounded, undiminished pleasure in life? Is it an orgy? Is it having a castle? Lots of jewels, lots of women, men. Let's see what the answer is.
Ityukto Bhagavan Praha Simantosti hi tadrishaha yatra prithvi nakasham sagarana na chadrayah navanani na tirthani nanadhyo na saransi cha sumahan eka evasti tatra raja mahagdhyutihi. Thus addressed, the revered one said, "Indeed, there is such a boundary or limit where there is no earth, no sky, no oceans, no mountains, no forests, no holy places, no rivers, and no lakes. There is only one king there, of great strength or eminence and great splendor or dignity."
Sounds like a pretty great place. Let's see if we can find out where it is, and we'll take the next airplane. Going on.
Sarvakrit sarvaga sarva sachatushnim vyavasthitah tena sankalpito mantri sarvato mantrano namukha aghatam ghatayatyashu ghatam vighatayatyapi bhoktum kinchit na shaknoti na cha janati kinchana. All doing, all pervading, and the all, he is settled silently. As provided by him, his minister, intent on advising all round, brings about quickly what has not happened and removes what has occurred. He is not able to enjoy anything, nor does he know anything.
So the king is there sitting in his splendor, still, and the minister is out there running the country, getting everything done. Who is this king? And who is his minister? You can probably figure it out. Let's see. Going on.
Rajartham kevalam sarvam karotya jyopi sansada raja kevalamo kante swastha eva vatishtati. He does everything only for the sake of the king always, though remaining ignorant. The king remains alone in a lonely place, quite at ease.
So this king is Kevala, alone. You probably figured out he's the South. Always alone, always at peace, always at ease. Ministers the mind, who does everything for the sake of the king. Now listen carefully. Everyone always is worshiping the self. There is no one who is not worshiping the self. What about this guy who shot all the people in Buffalo? Was he worshiping the self? Yes. Whatever his mind was telling him, He thought if he killed these people, it would remove his agitation and he would be happy or peaceful. What he was seeking was the happiness, the peace, which is the mind coming home to the self. He just didn't know it. Therefore, did it by the wrong means, which didn't work very well. In the end, we have to understand the phenomenal world is not bad. Earlier part of our practice, we're taught, avoid sensuous pleasures, avoid the sense objects. They're like poison. That's for those of us who have really strong addictive tendencies. But in the end, there's nothing wrong with the sense objects because they're void. They're empty. They have no joy-giving or misery-producing qualities. Remember our three questions? Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? I am that king, Brahman, always at peace. What is this world? Nothing but consciousness, appearing as name and form. All is Maya, all is bliss. And my experience of it comes about my sankalpa. What's my sankalpa? I think that is fabulous. I think that is so sad. That's what's going on. I imbue all the names and forms with their qualities. But they are really shunyata, empty, void. Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? Stay with those three questions. Going on.
Satatra balavan mantri devasura ganaisata nalaksha gunitair vapi sarvai akramyate manak. Son, there that minister possessed of strength is not conquered or overcome even a little by all the troops of demigods and demons collected by hundreds, thousands.
So no external force, no external object, no act of will conquers the mind. Any attempt to do that is like an isometric. And here I am pushing against my hand back and forth. All those efforts. Nothing there. Next verse.
Prabhu naiva tu jayoyam yuktayati na yuktayati savashyatam. But he is conquerable only by the Lord or the King. He comes under control by an expedient.
So, how does the mind get conquered? Only when the mind comes home to the self is it satisfied. When the mind becomes no mind, there's a very famous painting, an image of Hanuman embracing Lord Ram. Hanuman's just, blissed out, just hugging Ram. Totally in love, totally satisfied. Ram is just evil. So Hanuman is the mind. And it's only satisfied when it comes home. One of my favorite sayings of St. Augustine, thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. Same idea. Next verse.
Deshanamna mayoktaste moksha sakala dukkha raja cha bhagavan atma mantri pragnyo mano bhavet vishayan pratyanasthasyat yuktirhi manasojaye. Liberation, the destroyer of all pain or sorrow, has been declared to you by the name, country, or region by me. The king is the divine self. The wise minister is the mind. The means for the conquest of the mind would be indifference towards objects of the senses.
Yes. There it is. There is the sum totality of our practice. Abhyasa vairagya. Not just indifference to the objects, but come home. Come home. Revel in your own self-nature. Next one.
Chittasya bhagau dvau bhogaihi shastrenaikam prapurayet guru shashru shaya chaikam avyatpannasya satkrame. Let one fill up 2/4 of the mind, which is not proficient or perfected in proceeding towards reality, with enjoyments, 1/4 with reflection on scripture, and 1/4 with service to or desire to hear the spiritual teacher.
So this is so practical. Because we hear this teaching, give up the world and abide in the self. And we go, I can't do that. I love music. I love sex. I love attention. I love money. I'd be fooling myself to say that I don't love it. So what does the scripture advise us to do? No blame. So if you see the mind as perhaps like a pie chart, 2/4, spend it. half your waking time. Enjoy the world. Go after it. Do it consciously. Do it with integrity. Don't be a jerk. Don't be dishonest, but enjoy. And then 1/4 of the pie chart. It was study of the scripture, wasn't it, Puneet?
Yeah, reflection on the scripture.
And what was the other one? Service?
Service or desire to hear the spiritual teacher.
Yes. So if you've got a guru, spend 1/4 of your time coming to satsang, tuning up with the teacher if you can, spending it in doing service in the world. What is the value of service? The most painful position of the mind is paranoid self-observation. How am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? 12-step groups, you get the idea that we are the piece of shit that the whole world revolves around. Narcissistic, low self-esteem. What's the antidote for it? Well, if I cannot turn my mind to God because don't have the yoga balam, the strength of yoga, do service. Go help another person. It can be as simple as you call up a friend and say, I'm totally in my head today. You tell me what's going on with you. Then shut up and listen. Take a real interest in someone else. Who here may have a little bit of social awkwardness at a party or something like that? Real simple way to get over it. Do service. Pick up the empty glasses. Pick up the food trays. Go to the kitchen. Ask the host if you can take out the garbage. Help make the next batch of punch. Whatever it is. Do service. Any thoughts on this? So that's where we start. 2 parts of the mind in enjoyment, 1 part of the mind in reflection on scripture, 1 part of the mind hanging with the guru or engaged in selfless service. What do we do after we've done that for a while? Next verse.
Kinchit vyutpattiyuktasya bhagam bhogai prapurayet guru shushrushaya bhagao bhagam shastartha chintaya. Let him fill up 1/4 of the mind which is endowed with a little proficiency in proceeding towards reality with enjoyments, 2/4 with service to or desire to hear the spiritual teacher, and 1/4 with reflection on the meaning of the scriptures.
Yes. So now we reduce our extroversion in the world down to 1/4. And we have 2/4 engaged in service and hearing the teacher. Now, the exoteric frame of this is you may be in an ashram and somebody's got to cook the food and chop the vegetables and do the laundry, and someone has to sweep the floors and stuff like that. But those of us who are householders in the world, we still do service. And 1/4 of the mind in reflection on the scripture. So we're slowly pulling our mind out of the world. When we're proficient in that, what do we do do next? Next verse.
Vyupattim anuyatasya dvau bhagavati chetasah purayet shastra vairagyai dvau dhyana guru pujyata. Let him fill up even 2/4 of the mind which has gone after proficiency in the path to reality by reflection on scriptures and passionlessness, and the other 2/4 with meditation and worship of the Guru or spiritual teacher.
Yes. So take 2/4 of the mind. I just had a senior moment. Read the English one more time.
Let him fill up even 2/4 of the mind which has gone after proficiency in the path to reality by reflection on the scriptures and passionlessness.
Yes. So practicing this vairagya, this detachment, and you hear the scriptures in satsang, you do your own swadhyaya, your own self-study. Think about it. Think about it. One of the things that you'll find, read a scripture that's thousands of years old and you'll find yourself on every page. You realize you're not special. You're a textbook yogi. You are so ordinary that they wrote a book about you 3,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago. And then here we talk about worship of the Guru. This doesn't mean doing pada puja or something like that. This means when you've developed this capacity to tune to that emptiness, that's the Guru. But it's not so much about the blah, 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 blah. It's that thunder of silence. What was the last quarter?
2/4 with meditation and worship of the Guru.
2/4. So one, half and a half. Start to practice our own dhyana, our own meditation. Find that thunder of silence that we experience initially around the Guru. We own it, we make it. Next verse.
Prajnaya cha vicharena samam atma valokanam trishna satya game vapi sadati vram samaharet. By discernment together with reflection on or inquiry, let him intensely collect the perception or awareness of the self and also the renunciation of desires always.
So now he's cooking. So this intense renunciation of the mind itself as well as the world. And then this intense introversion of the attentive faculty. An effort to rediscover, who am I? Long hours of meditation. All right, we'll stop here and we'll finish this process next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. Thank you all.